Hey everyone, in today's video we're going to be looking at the different elements that make up the structure of poetry. So we're going to identify each of these elements and then we're going to use these elements to later help us in analyzing poetry and then in comparing and contrasting poetry to other forms of literature that we've looked at this year, like nonfiction and different types of prose or different types of fiction. Well, I guess nonfiction is prose, just different types of prose. So before we do that, you want to pause the video. You should have already done this because I'm going to do this as a class before we start watching the video, and just answer this question right here, number one, what is poetry? Okay, and so then after you've answered that question, of course, we're going to talk about poetry. So poetry is literature written in stanzas and lines. Now, authors put a lot of ideas, thoughts, and feelings into a few carefully chosen words. Remember that 2-line poem I showed you a couple weeks ago? Very, very meticulous, very, very particular. Authors choose words for the beauty of them, for the symbolism, for the sounds, for the meaning, for all of the above. And so poetry is a lot shorter than normal prose, more musical than normal prose, but because of that, it adds so much more depth and so many more layers. But we're not going to get there right now. Right now, we're just going to kind of break down the different parts of the structure of poetry. So the first thing here, probably the most important thing here, is stanzas. So stanzas, not the most important, but it is important. It's a small section of a poem made up of one or more lines. Now, stanzas look just like a paragraph, and they are separated from other stanzas by what is known as a stanza break. So where you indent and space in paragraphs, you do the same thing here in stanzas. So I actually already did this by accident in a separate video. So if you just look here, this is a stanza. Oh my goodness, what is that? I don't need to define this. That is a stanza right there. So you just drop this box over. So there are actually just 2 stanzas in this poem right here. Each one is represented by these paragraphs, okay? Now, our next term here is repetition. Now, repetition, we've already kind of been experienced to, but this is repeating words, phrases, lines, or stanzas. Okay, if you repeat any of those things one time, you have achieved repetition. Okay, just like if your parents tell you to clean your room more than one time, they have achieved repetition. It strengthens a feeling or idea, right? It creates rhythm, which we're going to talk about rhythm in a second. Rhythm is all throughout poetry and music, of course. And then it can also, this is probably the hardest one to really grasp, but it can also develop a sense of urgency, or that it's important that I've repeated it so many times. Like, we need to get this done. Like, it's this important that I keep doing this. Okay, so for example here, we have from Frozen, and I'm not going to read the poem to you, but you've probably all seen this, but it's this right here for the first time. Oh my gosh, don't do this to me. Don't move on me. Whatever just happened. For the first time in forever. For the first time in forever. And of course, last but not least, for the first time in forever. We've repeated that 3 times, so it should show you that that phrase in particular is important. Why does it keep getting repeated? Now, another type of repetition is this thing known as consonance. Now, consonance is on our SOL this year. Well, it's in our SOLs this year. I doubt it's going to actually be on the SOL test, but just understanding what consonance is and just having a general idea of what it is what they want us to make sure that you guys have before you leave. And so consonance is similar to alliteration, and then it's looking at the letters in words repeated. Okay, so consonance is a literary device where the same consonant sounds, right? Anything that isn't a vowel are repeated in close proximity with a sentence or phrase. It is typically in the middle or end of words. It's not at the beginning. It is often used in poetry. That's why we're talking about it. And it creates a pleasing rhythm or sound. And so example here, I have 3 for you. Mike likes his new bike, right? The k sound, the pitter patter of little feet, the t sound. Notice it's in the middle, t sound, and then the lumpy, bumpy road stretched ahead, the mp sound there, MP. Okay, so that is consonants. So that's kind of the beginning of our poetry notes here. I'm going to pause this for now, and we still have to get through rhyme, rhyme scheme, rhythm, and line break. So we have 4 more terms that we have to get through, but that will be in video 2. So please join me for that video next. Thank you all for watching.